Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Fall 2021 Virtual Initiation Ceremony as part of 2021 Founders Week celebrations. This year is the 119th anniversary of Phi Alpha Delta's founding. My name is Emily Baranowski. I'm Phi Alpha Delta's Deputy Director, and I'm so pleased to have so many of you here tonight to be initiated or to celebrate your membership in Phi Alpha Delta. A few quick notes before we get started with tonight's ceremony. First, please note that all of you are muted and will remain muted until it is time to affirm the oath near the end of the ceremony. If you need to request the mailing of your certificate and PIN, you can do that by filling out the form that was emailed to you in your confirmation, or you can contact our Director of Membership, Katie Gibbs, at katie@pad.org. We do have a lot more great Founders Week programming continuing this week. Tomorrow, which is Veterans Day, we'll be highlighting chapter service efforts. Your chapter can be recognized by submitting content to be featured on the Phi Alpha Delta website and on social media. Please email Corey Freeman, our Director of Communications, with pictures and with any questions about submitting service events. She can be reached at corey@pad.org. On Friday, we will have a Founders Week social hall hosted by the Alaska Statewide Alumni Chapter and friends. This virtual social hall is going to run from 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday the 12th, all the way through Sunday night on the 14th. So we thank them very much for hosting that over multiple days. And if any of you guys would like more information on tomorrow and Friday's events, please visit www.pad.org/Founders Week. I'd like to introduce our officiants this evening. All our officiants are trustees of the PAD International Foundation. The International Foundation is Phi Alpha Delta's charitable entity and a 501c3 tax-deductible organization. The foundation was created to support Phi Alpha Delta members and help sustain the fraternity for years to come. Projects funded by the foundation include leadership training, professional development, Phi Alpha Delta events and programs, chapter education and support, and scholarships. Serving as our justice tonight is Tom Spence, chair of the International Foundation. Tom is a member of Webster chapter. He practices insurance law with a focus on D&O, cyber, and other management liability insurance policies as a partner with Holland and Knight, working out of their Washington, D.C. office. Our vice justice for tonight, joining us from Wisconsin, is Michael Knoller. Mike is the Vice President, Senior Audit Manager for Compliance for City National Bank and manages a wide range of risk and regulatory compliance issues. He's an alum of La Follette chapter and a member of the Milwaukee Alumni chapter, where he serves as a chapter officer in addition to his role as a foundation trustee. Serving as clerk is Allison Janowitz, Secretary of the International Foundation. Allison is an attorney with the firm of Lukes, Santaniello, Petrillo, and Jones in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. She is an alum of Rasco chapter, and in addition to her role with the foundation, serves as District 26 Justice. Our treasurer this evening is Foundation Trustee John Peter Curielli, who joins us from Barrington, Illinois. John Peter is a member of Story chapter and the Chicago Alumni chapter. He practices estate planning, commercial law, real estate law, and litigation. Since 1973, he has owned and operated his own firm, the law offices of John Peter Curielli, PC. Serving as marshal is John Karasik. John currently serves as PAD's international treasurer on the International Executive Board. He's the Supervisory Intellectual Property Council for the Office of Naval Research, is a member of the Robert E. Redding National Capital Area Alumni Chapter, and is joining us tonight from Alexandria, Virginia. And last but certainly not least, taking on the role of the alumni member in tonight's ritual is Nicole Gritta, who serves as Phi Alpha Delta's International Vice Justice. Nicole is a trial attorney joining us from Memphis, Tennessee. We are very grateful for the foundation for all of their incredible work on behalf of the fraternity and for joining us tonight as officiants for this ceremony. I will now turn it over to our officiating justice, Tom Spence.
Thank you all for being here. The purpose of this meeting is the initiation of new members into our fraternity. This is a proud and happy occasion for Phi Alpha Delta, as the benefits of membership in Phi Alpha Delta and active participation in the fraternity activities will now be possible for a new group of members. On behalf of the International Chapter, I extend a cordial welcome to our prospective members and their guests. I ask your careful attention and earnest consideration of our statement of principles, which follows.
Justice Tom, I am pleased to present the following new members for membership in Phi Alpha Delta Law Fraternity International. In addition to the foregoing, I am also pleased to present the following new members: Andrew Cash, Wiener Chapter; Kelsey Johnson, Pepper Chapter; Kelly Loftus, Robinson Chapter; Rachel McLean, Pepper Chapter; Aaron Palmer, Patterson Chapter; David Robbins, Adams Chapter; Chamira Upshur, LeBrum Chapter. I request that they be admitted into membership of Phi Alpha Delta so that the bond of fraternalism, which is the essence of Phi Alpha Delta, may be extended to each of them.
You have been invited to join with us in the membership of Phi Alpha Delta Law Fraternity International. Before we proceed, however, there is a duty which the laws of the fraternity lay upon me. I must place before you certain matters of which we request your deepest consideration. Phi Alpha Delta offers you an opportunity to translate an ideal into the practical side of your professional life. As aspiring members of Phi Alpha Delta, you must assume certain obligations and loyally fulfill them. This being so, in fairness to you and ourselves, some indication of these obligations should necessarily be given to you at this time. The fact that you are here together is symbolic of our fraternity. With a common purpose and united by that bond which is Phi Alpha Delta, we aid each other in finding the way to honorable professional service within the legal profession. United by that bond, we can achieve much for ourselves, our profession, and for humanity. The attributes of integrity, compassion, and courage, complemented by professional service, are fundamental principles of Phi Alpha Delta, and the indispensable ingredients of the character of a true lawyer. The other officiating officers here with me will now address you concerning these attributes.
Integrity is one of the indispensable attributes of the legal profession. It is that characteristic which makes a lawyer's services acceptable before the tribunals of our land. It is that unchanging spirit of fidelity to principles which makes it impossible for a true lawyer to mislead a court, distort the rule of law announced in a decided case, or deceive a client as the strength or weakness of his cause. It is that undeviating loyalty to truth which makes it impossible for one lawyer to mislead another as to the status of a matter, the availability of a witness, or the merits of a cause. It is that subordination of one's own personal gain or an advantage for one's client to a higher principle which makes candor a habit and a lawyer's word a universally accepted bond. Integrity makes each lawyer a custodian of these high principles of the legal profession, which ensure our heritage of human freedoms, individual liberties, and equal justice under the law for all our citizens. To tolerate the abridgment of those principles is to forfeit the right to declare that one is, of the law, a lawyer.
Compassion and courage are two additional principles which every lawyer must possess. Compassion leads a lawyer to accept the cause of the unfortunate, the underprivileged, and those who are the object of scorn and public disfavor. Courage brings the lawyer to press these causes and to defend the rights of these persons with full abilities and a stout heart. Compassion and courage are essential if a lawyer is to be the true servant of the law for all the people. One who would serve the law and attempt less than complete loyalty to these principles is unworthy of the status of a lawyer or of membership in this fraternity.
In conjunction with the principles of integrity, compassion, and courage, and deriving strength from them is another which is required. This principle is professional service. Professional service is of vital importance in our ever-changing world and increasingly complex society. Professional competence is the capstone of a lawyer's essential structure of principles and virtue. Public trust demands the enlightened leadership which lawyers are especially well equipped to provide. If legal profession is to fulfill its responsibilities to society, we as lawyers must assume the obligations of effective and competent professional service and must discharge these responsibilities with the utmost of our abilities. Only then will our free institutions survive and the principle of equal justice under law become a reality for all humanity. Competent and effective professional service in every form is a proper complement to a lawyer's indispensable attributes of integrity, compassion, and courage, and is essential of Phi Alpha Delta.
So that you may better understand your responsibilities as a member of Phi Alpha Delta, the Chapter Vice Justice will now explain to you the symbolic meaning of our coat of arms.
This image is the coat of arms of our fraternity. An understanding of the symbols of our coat of arms will give you a better understanding of the principles and ideals of Phi Alpha Delta and of your responsibilities as a member of our fraternity. The Book of Law, located on the right side of the shield, typifies that immortal and undying spirit which is the truth in law, to which all precedents must bow and all rules conform. May this spirit, which is the law, inspire you with an ever-abiding faith in the rule of law, which is worthy of your loyalty and support. The lamp of learning, located above the shield, signifies that only through great industry and application will true learning be acquired. To be worthy of the title, a lawyer, you must be diligent in your application of the study of law throughout your legal career. Only then will your accomplishments serve as a true guide to those who follow you. The scales of justice, located on the left side of the shield, represent the impartiality of the rule of law, which gives to every individual true justice, without favor or distinction. You are of the law, a lawyer, only if you can judge with impartiality and fairness to all. The scroll, located below the shield, contains the name of our fraternity, Phi Alpha Delta, and signifies that fraternal bond which unites us into a cohesive force for the advancement of the legal profession and our fraternity. Our name, Phi Alpha Delta, connotes the Greek phrase Philos Adelphos Dikaios, translated into our contemporary language, Philos Adelphos Dikaios, standing for justice is a dear brother, and in another translation, love of humanity and justice for all. Our name thus signifies the two basic precepts upon which our fraternity is founded: fraternalism, the joined together in a common spirit, and justice, that ideal which we have chosen, the legal profession, must preserve by exemplifying the principles of integrity, compassion, and courage, and by devoting our time and talent to professional service. The column, which supports and sustains all the other symbols on the coat of arms, represents our membership, whose duty it is to maintain the principles and ideals of Phi Alpha Delta and to pass them on, intact to those who follow us.
So that you may have a better understanding of our principles upon which the fraternity was founded, the chapter clerk will now address you.
Phi Alpha Delta is unique in that it is the only law fraternity which was founded as a result of a legal controversy. It has grown to its size and structure today from a series of events commencing in 1897. On November 4th, 1897, the Illinois Supreme Court, without prior notice, adopted a rule retroactively affecting all new members for the admission to the bar. In response, a group of law students formed the Law Student League with the avowed purpose of obtaining an exemption for those students who had commenced their legal education prior to the adoption of this rule. The League was successful in obtaining passage by the Illinois legislature of an act exempting these students from its provisions. That organization of students was then formally organized in 1897 as the Lambda Epsilon Fraternity, Lambda standing for law and Epsilon for equity. It soon became apparent that this type of organization had a universal appeal and that its benefits should be made available to all members of the legal profession. Accordingly, Lambda Epsilon Fraternity was dissolved by a unanimous action of the Third Biennial Convention meeting at the Colonial Tavern in South Haven, Michigan. On the next day, July 27th, 1902, the Articles of South Haven, which were to be the foundation of Phi Alpha Delta, were adopted by those in attendance. At a subsequent meeting in Chicago, the Articles, a constitution, rituals, and rules to govern the new organization were formally adopted. The name Phi Alpha Delta was chosen, denoting a continuing bond of friendship among members of the Law Student League and Lambda Epsilon Fraternity and of the new fraternity. By 1910, the number of chapters had grown to 23. In 1969, the fraternity chartered its first active charters outside the boundaries of the United States, with the establishment of the chapters in Canada and Puerto Rico. In 1972, Phi Alpha Delta Law Fraternity, the leading Phi Delta Delta Law Fraternity, the leading law fraternity for women, was, by joint resolution, merged into Phi Alpha Delta, and 5,000 leading women, judges, lawyers, educators, and law students became members of Phi Alpha Delta. Thus, growing from a tiny nucleus originating in a legal controversy at the turn of the century, Phi Alpha Delta has achieved a position of preeminence among law fraternities. As you become members of Phi Alpha Delta, we ask your aid and support to ensure that our fraternity and its principles will endure into the future, as it has in the past, and with the aid of those who have preceded you as members of Phi Alpha Delta Law Fraternity International.
You've now heard our statement of those principles and ideals which must dominate the professional activities of a member of Phi Alpha Delta, and indeed of every member of the legal profession. To signify your acceptance of these principles and ideas as your own, I will now administer to you the oath of membership in Phi Alpha Delta Law Fraternity International. Please raise your right hand. I will now read the oath of membership in its entirety. I solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will support the laws and legal precepts of my country and of its legal entities, that I will respect their courts, obey their legal mandates, and that I will be just and honorable in all my professional activities, and will be faithful to those whom I represent, and that I will support the policies and principles of Phi Alpha Delta Law Fraternity International, insofar as they do not conflict with my religious or civil duties. I will now ask that you all unmute yourselves. As soon as we have that done, I will proceed. All right, looks like most of you are ready. So I will now say, do you promise and swear to support the oath that I just have read? If you agree, please say yes.
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 All right, thank you very much. You can all go back on mute now. In this virtual world, there's not an official roll of the chapter for you to sign. Normally, this would signify your formal entry into the membership of the chapter. Instead, your names will be virtually entered into the roll of Phi Alpha Delta and your respective chapters. If we were in person, You would also now receive the fraternal greeting of the fraternity, which consists of a normal handshake with the index finger extended along the wrist of the opposite member, touching the pulse. This greeting is symbolic of the bond of fraternalism, which Phi Alpha Delta exemplifies. Staff's now going to share a picture of the handshake. As we cannot shake hands with you across the Zoom screen, please instead view this video showing the fraternal handshake being given by our past International Justice, Stan Cohen. If you're not familiar with Stan Cohen, he was International Justice from 1984 to 1985. Unfortunately, Stan was killed halfway through his term as International Justice. At each convention, we hold a reception, which is named after Stan. The annual Outstanding Chapter competition of our law school chapters is also named in his honor. Members of Phi Alpha Delta, I take you all to witness that the newest members here present have been duly initiated into our fraternity and chapter, have taken the oath of membership, and will be entered in the official roll of their chapters. Now, by virtue of the authority vested in me, I declare you members of Phi Alpha Delta Law Fraternity International and of your respective chapters of the fraternity. I hereby invest in you all rights and privileges appertaining thereto. And on behalf of all members of Phi Alpha Delta, I extend you a cordial welcome into our fraternity. We're happy to have you join with us in furthering the principles and ideals of Phi Alpha Delta. At this point, I'd like to recognize our alumni member who will represent, have a few comments from the alumni group.
As a member of the alumni of Phi Alpha Delta and representing all of its alumni members, I extend to each of you, our new members, a fraternal welcome into our fraternity. To you, our new members, we offer the assistance of the alumni in the achievement of your goals. I urge each of you to seek the aid and guidance of the alumni of Phi Alpha Delta whenever we can be of service. You will find us ever ready to be of help to you. To the older members of this chapter, I commend these new members and urge you to make them welcome in your midst so that they may soon realize the true and full significance of membership in our fraternity.
The development and maintenance of the special relationship between student and alumni members of Phi Alpha Delta is of vital importance and is a unique characteristic of our fraternity. I commend to you the greeting of our alumnus member. Nicole, on behalf of all officiants and Phi Alpha Delta Law Fraternity International, please accept our sincere appreciation for your presence and participation, which will serve as a reminder to each of us of the bond of fraternalism that exists between all members of Phi Alpha Delta. Your initiation into Phi Alpha Delta is now complete, and you are now full members with us in Phi Alpha Delta. I charge each of you to hold foremost in mind the principles and ideals to which you've subscribed today. With your help, Phi Alpha Delta can remain a real living force for the advancement of our profession and so of humanity. We have gathered here today to advance this meeting of principles and ideals of Phi Alpha Delta by the initiation of new members present here with us. The admission of our new members will ensure the future of the fraternity and of our chapter. And we are indeed proud to have you join with us in Phi Alpha Delta. And in joining this meeting, let's do so with a firm resolve that our new members will be made welcome into our midst as full members of the fraternity and the chapter. I now declare this meeting of Phi Alpha Delta Law Fraternity International adjourned. Thank you. Now, before we end the call, some words from our executive office, please.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you to all of our officiants for their time and service, both this evening and as distinguished members of PAD and in the International Foundation. As we mentioned earlier, and the link is still in the chat, please do refer to the chat or the email you received with the meeting link for information on receiving your membership materials, your certificate and PIN. And if you have any questions, please contact our Director of Membership, Katie Gibbs, at katie@pad.org with any questions. Please do join us again tomorrow and Friday for additional Founders Week activities. We're so glad to have all of you here with us. Congratulations again to all of our initiates. Thank you to all who joined us to support our new members and reaffirm their membership in Phi Alpha Delta. Have a safe and pleasant evening, and good night, everyone.